What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our Kratom Addiction and Recovery Daily Devotional series. So we're still in Job today. We're going to be here for this week and probably part of next week. And yesterday we had a really cool few verses that we went over. And today we're going to be picking up in Job 23 verses 1 through 5. And just a little disclaimer, this is something where we're gonna, go into some maybe tough for some of you, maybe not, but it's real. And that's what we're all about here on this channel, is staying real about what goes on in our addiction and recovery process. Okay, so Job 23 verses 1 through 5. Even today my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy in spite of my groaning. If only I knew where to find him. If only I could go to his dwelling. I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would find out what he would answer me and consider what he would say to me. So this is Job still in this long conversation with his friends. And this is what Job is saying in response to his friends, where he's talking about where he is. He's expressing his pain. And he's saying, if only I knew where to find God, that I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would find out what he would answer me and consider what he would say to me. And we chose these verses today because, like I said, we're all about encouragement and uplifting here, but this is also a space where we're going to be honest and we're going to be real about some of the struggles that we go through in this addiction and recovery, because it's not easy, as you know. And there are times in our faith, in our struggles, in our addiction, that we have to be real with God. I encourage being real with God all the time, because what's the point if we're not being real? And if we're not being real, we're being fake, and that's ultimately lying. And trust me, it never works out well when we're, being fake or dishonest about something. But what does it look like to be real and go to God in this pain? We kind of touched on this a little bit last week when we were getting into some of Job's other responses to his friends. But I wanted to revisit it again, that being authentic with God is so important. And it ultimately gives us the space and the time to pour our hearts out before him. And just like we can go to counselors or talk to our best friends or our family members, we can do that with God too. And although it may not be easy, when we're in a lot of pain and when we're in a lot of suffering, it's really the best thing for us sometimes to go before God like that. And in our darkest moments, in our deepest pain, we can go to him and we can ask these hard questions. Job is blameless in God's eyes. And even he's going, well, today my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy in spite of my groaning. I don't know if you relate to that, but I do, where I've gone to God before in my addiction and my recovery and been come on, God, what's the point of this? What's the deal with all of this? I'm in so much pain. And I'm literally groaning to God, just like what Job is expressing here. And, Job is also in this place of questioning God. If only I knew where to find him, if only I could go to his dwelling. Sometimes God, we don't feel God. God isn't going to speak to us audibly, despite what some other, faiths believe. I don't believe that. I believe if you're hearing voices, then that's something else. But God isn't going to appear before us and then speak to us. The presence of God is something that it felt by different people in different ways, but for me and what I've learned is that, the best way to seek God and to feel his presence is to get into the word, number one, and number two, through prayer and meditation. And, in prayer is where we go to him authentically, like we're saying, and pour our hearts out to him. And how I experience the presence of God is that when I am in these moments of darkness and of pain, and sometimes it's not a lot, you guys, sometimes it's just the smallest little flicker of peace or of comfort or of this distant, far knowing, and the smallest flicker of hope that no matter how bad things are, that in the future that it's going to get better. And that I don't know how it's going to get there. I don't know how things are going to change, but I know that at some point it's going to get better. And I don't have the ability to really do that on my own when I'm in my darkest moments. But sometimes that's how, I experience the presence of God. And what I started to say before I started to explain, how we, can feel the presence of God, is that sometimes we don't feel anything at all. And it's really hard. And that's what Job is going through right now, where he's going through these struggles. He's talking to his friends and he's really sharing these dark moments with them. And sometimes it's like that. When I was in my 1.5 years of pause, my post-acute stuff after my final quit, I had some really gnarly patches, you guys, where I was just so down. I was so depressed. I was so anxious. I had so much anhedonia where I just felt like nothing about anything. And it was really hard. And there are times where we don't feel that flicker of hope like I was talking about, or that comfort. And those are the times where we really have to stand firm. And, we may not be having that experience at that moment where we are, feeling something or, go listening to music and having this experience. That may not be going on. And really it comes down to, staying disciplined with our seeking of God, reading the word every day, no matter what. Sometimes it, only needs to be a verse, but creating that place every single day where we're going to God. And even if we don't feel him, or we don't feel this, this presence or this hope or, this uplifting or this comforting, still going to God. And it's okay too. I've talked about this a bunch, and I'm thinking that one of the studies that we're going to do, it might even be our next study, is going to be going into what it means to lament to God. And I've talked about it before. I love this word. It's an old school word. And to lament means a passionate expression of grief. And I think that is so beautiful when you look at that. That's so raw, that's so real. And there are many times throughout the Bible where people go to God and lament to him. And so we can see that, and we can know that that's a really good way for us to go to God too. And when we find ourselves where Job is right now, where he's, he is lamenting. I mean, he's talking to his friends, but he's talking about what he would do that I only wish that I could find God. And then I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would find out how he would answer me and consider what he would say to me. That's lamenting. That's a passionate expression of grief. And so that's the point of today, is going authentically to God, no matter what our pain is, no matter what our suffering is and our challenges are, and, crying out to him, no matter if we have any sort of response that we, feel at that moment. And it's important to lay the foundation in our relationships with the Lord that are authentic and real. And we can't be that way if we're trying to sugarcoat things and, not express ourselves authentically to God. So I encourage you to think about this today. And I encourage you to also try it if you haven't done it before, because you can talk to God the way that you can talk to a counselor or, your partner or, your family member. And it's incredible to see what happens, even if you don't get a response immediately, to have that realness and that authenticity with God is just amazing. So I encourage you to think about that more today. And let us know how you're doing in the comments section below. And I will see you tomorrow as we continue in Job. Love you guys. Bye.